Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We're going to go over some strategies for those of you that are having symptoms of, let's say, tight hamstrings or just some kind of discomfort that you're feeling in the back of your thigh. I will say that most of the time when I see patients that complain of something like that, rarely is the issue the actual hamstrings. And when the hamstrings are involved, it's usually not a length or tightness issue, something that's going to get fixed with stretching. I want to preface this and say this is for people that actually have symptoms there. I get a lot of people that just think they have tight hamstrings just because they can't bend over and touch their toes. If you can't touch your toes, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a hamstring thing. There could be a lot of things like hip mobility, spine flexibility, all that stuff. So it's kind of like a separate issue. In this video, we're going to go over three things. We're going to try to rule them out or rule them in. So if we have symptoms, we're going to check the spine. We're going to do some exercises for that. Does that make my symptoms better, same, or worse? It just lets you know, okay, what may else be involved. We're going to look at neural tension and fascial tension, so not just specific muscles, but all of it in the back posterior chain there. And then we're going to go over my favorite, which is more of a lengthening and strengthening approach. You know, when things feel tight, I think it is a sign of weakness or underutilization, whatever you want to name it. So we'll go over some of my favorite exercises for that. First thing we're going to do is we're going to rule out spine. I've made other videos on this, and there's plenty on the internet that you can check out. But we're going to do some form of extension in our lower back, and then we're going to reassess our symptoms. So the most common thing that we're going to do is called the press up. What I'm focused on here is I'm going to go on my belly. My key is I'm trying to get this motion through my lower back, not really anywhere else. Okay, so I want to keep my hips on the table. I want to keep my back and my glutes relaxed. I always tell people this is an arm exercise at this point. So I'm totally relaxed, and then I just push up. So I'm trying to go as far as I comfortably can, keeping my hips down, up and down just like this. Now, sometimes people struggle with that, so I might have their arms up a little bit higher, or maybe they're going to push through their forearms. And I like to say, let's start from the upper back, curl, 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 and then I really drive the point home in the lower back. Might have a little bit of discomfort, that's fine. Just work through that, maybe try 10 to 20 reps, get a little further as you go. And then what you're going to do is you're going to stand up and assess, okay, what does my thigh do? If the pain just stays in the same spot, cool. If it moves up higher, maybe we got some spine involvement. If it moves further down, again, so I would call that worse, maybe we have some spine involvement. The other thing I'm going to do, it's real simple, same thing. Instead of laying on our belly, we're going to stand. And I'm going to put my hands here. I'm just going to arch straight backwards, just like that. Trying to not like fake it with my knees or like just get upper back. I see a lot of people do this. So I'm almost getting my hips to go forward and then my shoulders to go backwards. So hips past the toes, shoulders past the heels. Feel that pressure right along, right above the belt line there. Put a little pressure with the hands. Again, do 10, 20, something to work on throughout the day if it does help. Again, we're just trying to see, okay, what impacts my symptoms? Yeah, if it takes away all of your thigh pain, all of it, you did nothing to your hamstrings, that helps, letting you know, okay, we got a spine thing going on, and then at least gives you a roadmap on something else to do for that. Let's say spine, doesn't really give us much change. Not saying that that's not an exercise that you need. Next thing, we're going to move on to more of a what we call neurodynamic approach, or just working nerves and fascia, or just the whole thing, hip, leg, calf, all of it. We can do some seated sciatic nerve flosses, and there's a lot of ways to work on these things. So one common one I'll have people do is I'm going to sit, and this really depends on how tight you are, but I'm going to sit, kind of let my back round a bit. I'm bringing my leg up, my foot up, and then my ankle or my toes towards me. And that in and of itself is going to create a lot of tension there. Now I can make it more of a floss by bringing that up while looking up with my head and then back down. Up, down. What we would call a tensioner, a little bit more of a intense stretch would be as I bring the toes up, I'm actually going to look and slouch down a little further. It really depends on the situation, but if you just work with this, you're going to feel more of that nerve like pulling down the back of your leg. If you're in an active lower back flare-up episode, sciatica, things like that, well, you should know that your hamstring pain is probably the disc and the nerve problem in your back. This would be an iffy thing to try. At least I would feel comfortable if you had somebody recommend it to you that saw you in person. So up, down, up, down. I can hold position. I can work on sitting up, sitting down, sitting up, sitting down. You'll find certain moves as I do this, I start to feel a little bit more because I get a little bit more hip motion. Or if I go to here and I'm pumping my ankle back and forth, I can increase the tension. Another way to, just one of many, to create some length through the whole chain there, what we call seated sliders. So I'm going to use a furniture slider or some kind of exercise slider. I'm going to sit, kind of crouch, bring my foot up, straighten all the way out as far as I can go, and then bring it back. And as I reach out, then I can work on ankle mobility. I can drop my head down, my spine down, which is going to increase tension there. When we work on these things, sometimes this is going to help. We are mimicking a lot of common hamstring stretches. But as you can see, by adding ankle motions, hip motions, spine motions, we're creating more of a global pulling through the whole chain there. So including nerves and fascia and things like that. Now we're going to get into my favorite approach, which is starting to add some load while we lengthen the tissue. I use this for hamstrings, hip flexors, you name it. I really think it helps. First one I'll do are hamstring sliders. I'm just going to lay straight on my back. I'm going to lift up, just hover the hips above the ground, bring one leg up, and then I just straighten all the way out, just like this. Go as far as I can go, and then bring it back. So I'm feeling the tension all throughout the back of the hamstring there, and all the way up. Now, strength could be an issue here. So what I would do is I just bring the other foot down, and I'm trying to limit the amount of weight on this down foot as much as I can. You know, the weaker, let's say, our hamstring is, the more I'm going to support on that other leg. The other thing you could do is have two sliders under the feet to do them both at the same time. You can also work on some slide outs with a foam roller. So again, I can bridge up and I can start to walk my feet all the way out, and then I'm going to bring them all the way back. You notice I'm not super bridged up, it's just a couple inches. I can hold in a spot, do a little oscillation, bring one leg up, bring it down, one leg up, bring it down, just like this. I'm feeling a lot of that fatigue all through there. I'm going to go to close to failure. My absolute favorite thing to do would be straight-legged, single-leg deadlifts. And so what I'm going to do, I like to do these in what's called a kickstand position. So this back foot's just positioned here. I'm not locking my knee out, but it's pretty close. So very minimal bending in the knee. And I bow through my hips. I'm really trying to stick my butt back as far as I can. I create that stretch, and then it's a contraction through glute and hamstring to stand me straight up. Take a bow, straight back, and then come up. Once you feel comfortable with the motion, then we're going to load it up. So straight back, slow, all the way down. You can even hang out there for a few seconds, and then come all the way up. Try not to just extend through the back. That's going to take the onus out of the hip. I like to create the stretch there, and then I pull, I dig my foot down to the ground, tighten up the hamstring, tighten up the glute, back and forth. Okay, there you have it. Have some pain or tightness, symptoms, whatever, back of the thigh. Let's do a few things to try to get a little bit more information. You can do some back bends, press-ups, or back extension. Does that change my symptoms? If it does, or either makes it worse or better, great. Could have a little bit of a spine thing going on. And I do, instead of just targeting the hamstrings with stretching, can I do more of like a general mobility thing, what we call like a neurodynamic stretch, to get everything involved, the fascia, the nerves, and everything like that. If that helps, sometimes we can identify the issue being maybe more of like a tightness, nerve fascia thing in the hip or the calf or the spine, but you're just feeling it in the thigh for whatever reason. So again, see if you can get some success out of that. And the last thing, which is my favorite, I feel like it's the most effective, is we're going to load the tissue while we lengthen it. So we can do some sliders with the hamstrings. We can progress up to a single leg deadlift. trying to lengthen, feel that stretch, but then we're strengthening it at the same time. This will help. Even if you can't touch your toes, you'll find, wow, I actually improved my mobility. And over time, I do think if you're having a chronic feeling of tightness there, that will start to get better as well.